You think your home is messy because you're not disciplined enough. That's the story most people believe, but it's not really true. The real problem is that modern life is designed to create clutter faster than you can notice it. Every purchase feels small. Every item feels useful. Every decision feels harmless. But over time, these small choices build a home that feels heavy, crowded, and hard to manage. And here's where most advice gets it wrong. People tell you to clean more, organize better, buy storage boxes. Spend your weekend fixing everything in one big effort, but that cycle always fails. Because you are not dealing with the real cause. You are only reacting after the mess already exists. That is why nothing ever stays organized for long. There is another approach. And it comes from how many Japanese homes think about space and daily living. Instead of trying to control chaos after it appears, the focus is on stopping it before it even enters. Less waiting for problems, less buildup, less friction in daily habits. The idea is simple, but most people completely overlook it. Now, before we go into the habits, there is something important you need to understand. Habit number 7 is where everything changes. In fact, it goes against what most people believe about being organized. And if you don't understand that one properly, the rest will not stick. So don't rush ahead, because what comes next will quietly reshape how you think about your space. The first habit is simple, but most people ignore it completely. It's the idea of one in, one out. In many Japanese homes, nothing new is allowed to stay without something else leaving. Not because they love rules, but because they respect limits. Most people do the opposite. They keep adding things without removing anything. Over time, the home becomes a collection of decisions they no longer remember making. This habit breaks that cycle. It forces balance every single time something new enters your life. Then there's the idea of no floor storage. In many homes, the floor slowly becomes the default storage zone. Bags, boxes, clothes, random items. It starts small, almost invisible. But visually, it creates constant mental noise. Japanese spaces treat the floor differently. The floor is not a temporary storage space. It is part of the feeling of the room. So keeping it clear is not about cleaning more. It is about protecting the way the space feels. The next habit is immediate return. Most clutter does not come from machines. It comes from delay. You use something and leave it for later. You open something and don't fully put it back. Japanese routines remove that delay. If something is used, it goes back immediately. Not after 5 minutes, not later in the day. Right away. This removes the buildup before it even starts. Another important habit is controlling what enters the home in the first place. Most people think organization starts inside the house. But a lot of clutter is actually created outside the house. Buying things without thinking. Accepting items you don't need. Bringing in just-in-case objects. This habit slows that process down. It adds a pause between impulse and action, so less unnecessary things even make it inside. Then there is the empty surface standard. This is one of the most powerful mindset shifts. In many homes, flat surfaces slowly become permanent storage zones. Tables, counters, shelves. Once they fill up, the entire room starts to feel heavier. The Japanese approach is different. Surfaces are reset regularly. Not because they get dirty, but because visual space matters. When surfaces are clear, the mind feels clearer too. Another habit is the daily reset moment. Most people rely on one big cleaning day, usually on the weekend. That creates pressure, fatigue, and eventually avoidance. In contrast, Japanese style routines spread control into small daily resets. Just a few minutes at the end of the day is enough. Not to clean everything, but to bring the space back to baseline. This prevents mess from compounding into something overwhelming. Then there is invisible clutter awareness. This is not about what you can see immediately. 'Tis about the small things you ignore because they feel harmless. A cup left in the wrong. Place a drawer slightly open. Small item you keep moving from one spot to another. Individually, they don't feel like a problem, but together, they create a constant sense of disorder. This habit trains awareness, so you remove small friction points before they grow. Another key habit is minimal packaging discipline. A lot of clutter does not come from the product itself, but from what it arrives in. Boxes, plastic, wrappers, paper. People often bring items home and leave packaging sitting around for later. This habit removes that delay completely. The moment something enters the home, the unnecessary layers are removed immediately. So nothing extra accumulates in the background. Then there is functional space clarity. Every area in a Japanese-style home has a clear purpose. Nothing is randomly placed. When a space loses its identity, clutter naturally starts to form inside it. A table becomes storage. A chair becomes a pile. A corner becomes a dumping zone. This habit resets that logic. Each space has one role, and anything that does not match that role does not stay there. Another habit is avoiding future mess. This is one of the most overlooked patterns. Many people start tasks but do not finish them properly. Clothes left, half-folded. Dishes left to soak later. Papers left in stacks to deal with another day. This habit removes that pattern completely. The goal is not perfection. It is closure. Every action ends fully before the next one begins. Then there is respect for space itself. This is more of a mindset than a rule. Instead of seeing empty space as something that needs to be filled, it is treated as something valuable on its own. This changes every decision. You become more selective. You pause before placing anything down. You stop treating surfaces as storage opportunities. All of these habits point to one simple idea. This is not about cleaning more or organizing harder. It is about reducing the number of problems you create in the first place. Most people try to control clutter after it appears. These habits remove it before it even has a chance to form. The real change happens when you stop thinking of organization as a task and start seeing it as a daily pattern of small decisions, not big effort, not occasional resets, just consistent prevention. And here's the important part. You do not need all of these habits at once. In fact, trying to do everything at the same time is exactly what leads people to quit. The better approach is to choose one habit, just one, and let it become automatic before adding anything else. Now I want you to think about this. Which single habit actually feels realistic for your current lifestyle? Start there. Not everywhere. Just there. If you step back and look at all of this together, you start to see something most people miss. A clean home is not really the result of cleaning. 'Tis the result of fewer decisions that create mess in the first place. That is the real difference. Most people believe organization is about effort, more discipline, more time, more energy. But that thinking keeps them stuck in the same cycle. Mess builds up, stress builds up, and then one big cleaning session tries to fix everything at once. And then it all repeats again. These habits break that cycle completely. Not by adding more work, but by removing the need for it. That is why. They feel different. They are quiet, small, almost invisible in daily life. But over time, they change how your environment behaves around you. And if you only remember one thing from this video, let it be this. Your home reflects your smallest habits, not your biggest efforts. The way you place things down, the way you bring things in, the way you finish small tasks. That is what creates the final result you live in every day. So don't try to fix everything at once. That approach always fails. Instead, pick one habit that feels natural. Something small enough that you can actually stick to it without forcing yourself. Because consistency always wins against intensity. Now, I want to ask you something simple. Which one habit are you going to start with today? Write it in the comments. And if you want more ideas like this that make your daily life simpler instead, subscribe for more ways to make discipline feel easy.